So this was a past paper pop quiz 4. We have discussed the first three pop quizzes. In the first question, a list of oxides from A to H is shown. Oxide A is a calcium oxide. Oxide B is aluminium oxide. Oxide C is silicon 4 oxide. Oxide D is sulfur dioxide. Oxide E is carbon dioxide. F is iron 3 oxide. G is a silver oxide, or H is a carbon monoxide. You have to answer the questions about the oxides from A to H. You can use each letter maybe once, more than once, or not at all. So you're not supposed to write the name of these oxides. You are supposed to use the letter instead of their names, okay? From A to H. The first one, state which of these oxides from A to H is responsible for acid rain. Which is responsible for acid rain? Which oxide is acidic oxide and cause acid rain?
Sulfur dioxide.
Good. So sulfur dioxide, so we'll write D there, that D is causing an acid rain. So this will be D. Has a giant structure. So which oxide is having a giant structure? So you have to check
Silicon oxide.
again. Yeah. So which is having a giant structure? You have these oxides. So you can see silicon 4 oxide, it is having a giant structure. So you're not supposed to write full silicon 4 oxide. You will just use the letter C there, that it is a giant covalent structure. Is a reducing agent in a blast furnace. So in a blast
Carbon.
furnace, good. Because carbon monoxide and carbon both are good reducing agents. When carbon monoxide reacted with a iron oxide, this oxygen is removed from the iron, it will form carbon dioxide and Fe. The equation is not balanced, but you can see a carbon monoxide, it has a tendency to remove the oxygen from the other substance. That's why we call carbon monoxide is a reducing agent. So both carbon or a carbon monoxide, both are reducing agents. The next is a main constituent of a bauxite. The ore of what? Aluminium is there, the ore of aluminium. So which is a main constituent, like because it also contain other substance, but what is the main thing present in a bauxite? That is aluminium oxide. So aluminium oxide is a main constituent of bauxite. Next we have is a impurity in iron ore. What is the impurity in iron ore? Which of the oxide is impurity in iron ore? Iron oxide is a hematite. Which is the impurity? Yes, good. Silicon 4 oxide is an impurity. Because silicon iron, the hematite contain impurity silicon 4 oxide or a sand. That how we remove by reacting with calcium oxide, and how calcium oxide is produced is by thermal decomposition of the calcium carbonate. By decomposition of the calcium carbonate, it produces calcium oxide which react with silicon oxide to form a slag. Is a main impurity. The next is can be reduced by heating with copper.
Silver dioxide.
So can
Silver
we?
oxide.
Yes, because what will happen? This should be less reactive than copper. So if a copper is reacting with that metal, copper can displace this metal. So it should be less reactive. If any more reactive oxide, more reactive metal is attached with oxygen, then this reaction will not happen or occur. This will only happen or occur if there's a less metal is attached with oxygens. Then the copper can remove this oxygen, copper can remove this metal from the oxide. For those who just joined now, this is past paper pop quiz 4. Okay. Weekly past paper pop quiz. Question 2. Element J and K In part C, is a reducing agent in a blast furnace. So what is a reducing agent in the blast furnace? Which oxide is used to remove oxygen from the iron? So the carbon monoxide is used to remove oxygen from the iron. Because this carbon monoxide remove the oxygen from the iron. So as a result, it will produce carbon dioxide and iron metal. So what we call this carbon monoxide, we call that as a reducing agent. So carbon monoxide is actually a reducing agent used in the blast furnace. Next is element. This was a past paper pop quiz 4. Element J and K are in the same period. So they are in the same period. J react with acid to produce a salt and hydrogen. So what this given idea? This given idea J is what? J is a metal because metal react with acid to produce salt and hydrogen. K react with sodium, like K is reacting with, K is not a potassium, K is another element which is reacting with sodium or a metal to form an ionic compound. So what this give an idea, K is what? K is a non-metal. Because when non-metal react with metal, it will form an ionic compound. So K is a non-metal and J is a metal because it is reacting with acid to give salt and hydrogen. Which statement about J and K is correct? An atom of a J, as they mentioned, they are in the same period, okay? And metals are always on the left hand side of a periodic table, non-metals are on the right hand side. So an atom of a J has more electrons than atom of K. An atom of J has more electron than atom of K. Is it right? No. K should have more electron because K is on the right hand side. So as we move towards the right in across the period, the number of electron and the proton both will increase. J and K are both metals. That is not the right statement. J and K are both non-metal. That is also not the right statement. J is on the left of the K. This is the right statement. So that's why D will be the right answer. Because J is a metal. Metal is on the left hand side and non-metal on the right hand. No, this is metal and what you are saying is no. What you're saying is you're talking about state. You're saying solid, liquid, gas. We are talking about nature of the element. Element can be a metal or a non-metal or a metalloid. And most of the metal are in solid except mercury, which is liquid. So why A is wrong? Because J is not having more electron, J is having less electron. Because they're in the same period. Switch with them. You want to switch? So don't talk that. So J is on the left and K is on the right because metal, as we move across the period, the number of electrons or number of protons both increases. So J will have less electrons and K will have more electrons. That's why statement A is wrong. Statement A is written J should have more and K is having less. The next part of the periodic table is shown which element is having a high density. So high density, high melting point and form a brown oxide. So what are these characteristic high metallic point, high density and a brown like colored compound? These are the properties of the transition element. So if it's a transition element, where we'll find between group 2 and group 3. So B will be the brown oxide should give an idea that it is forming a colored compound. Brown, like it can be any, like they can say red oxide, green oxide, purple oxide, but no, it's the color. The next is we have the reaction of the four metals W, X, Y, and Z are listed. The metal W displaces the metal X from oxide. So we have a W, metal W, it displaces X from oxide. The reaction happen. Like example, it will become W oxide and X. So which is more reactive, W or X? W is more because W is able to displace X from oxide. So it means W is above in the reactivity. Like W is more reactive and S is less reactive because always the more reactive displaces the less reactive from its compound. How you'll identify which is more reactive or less reactive by observing or by using the information given in the question. You don't have to memorize anything. You just have to remember the concept that always the more reactive displaces the less reactive from its compound. The metal Y has a greater tendency to form a positive ion than W. So if it is having a greater tendency to form positive ion, that is also give an idea about the reactivity. Those metals which are high in reactivity, they have a greater tendency to lose electron. So which from this information, what we conclude, which is more reactive, Y or W? So Y is more reactive, so means Y should be above W. Aqueous ion of a Z are reduced by metal X. So what does it mean? Like example, if a metal X is added to Z ion and it's all about metal, so let's say Z was +1. So when the reaction happen or occur, Z will become ion, X will become ion and Z will become element. So which is more reactive here? X or Z? X is because what will happen, more reactive have a tendency to be an ion. So if a reaction happen or occur, the less reactive ion will turn into an atom, like less reactive metal, and more reactive metal atom will turn into ion. So because the reaction happen or occur, so what this given indication? This given the indication that X is more reactive and Z is less reactive. So means Z should be below the reactivity. So we want to state the order from least to the most. So least reactive is Z, then it is X, then it is W, and at the last it is Y. So it matches with option D. So D will be the right answer for this. Is it clear discussion?